From the icy lands of the north to Africa, from Istanbul to America. Warriors wielding blood-soaked axes and bearing tattooed bodies set out on the path to Odin's Valhalla. Blood and soil, drink and women, adventure and gold. This fierce tribe etched their names into the pages of history. Heads were severed, bones broken, and vows of revenge never forgotten, because they were the Vikings. But don't be mistaken. This story isn't just theirs. It's yours too. It belongs to all of us. Are you ready to travel back 1,200 years? Then summon your courage. This journey isn't for the faint of heart. We begin. The date is April 30th, 793, in Scandinavia. Daily life in a small Viking village carried on as usual. Locals toiled hard to make a living. In what's now Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, tribes sharing a common culture were locked in constant struggle. That same year, a band of Vikings struck the Lindisfarne Monastery in England. A raid and massacre that would shake the world. Raids had happened before, but attacking a sacred Christian monastery stunned Europeans and branded Vikings as God's punishment. And they knew this was only the beginning. Who were these men? What drove them? How did they change the world? Let's start by understanding Viking society and the myths that shaped them. According to Norse mythology, everything began in a void where fire and ice collided. From that clash emerged Ymir, a giant born, both male and female, with the power of creation. He gave rise to a cow whose milk sustained him. As she licked salty ice, another god, Buri, appeared. From Buri's lineage came Odin and his brothers, who slew Ymir and used his body to fashion the world. His blood became the oceans, his hair the forests, his brain the clouds, and his bones the sky. Some of their gods live on in our weekdays. Wednesday is Odin's day, Thursday is Thor's, and Friday honors Freya. Viking society was divided into classes. At the top were the Jarls, the nobles. But the backbone of their culture was the free men. Despite the hierarchy, boundaries weren't rigid. Jarls and free men met in assemblies to reach decisions together. Free men could never be forced into battle. A Jarl had to persuade them with promises of loot, feasts, and drink. And by drink, these guys meant business. Getting drunk was a badge of masculinity. They duel while plastered and revel in lawlessness. An Arab traveler, Ibn Fadlan, wrote in horror, appalled, "I have never seen finer physiques, tall as palm trees, fair-skinned and red-haired, but they are the filthiest creatures God made. They drink endlessly, carry axes, fornicate openly like donkeys. Their love of revelry even shaped their afterlife. Only those who died bravely in battle earned a seat at Odin's table in Valhalla, where feasting, fighting, and drinking lasted forever. Those who died peacefully in their beds were condemned to a cold, dark realm called Niflheim. War was the surest path to glory. Another key class were the thralls, the slaves. Kidnapped from distant lands, they made up a quarter of Viking population. Living alongside animals, they toiled year-round in brutal conditions, farming, tending livestock, and keeping households running while raids were underway. Slave trading stretched as far as Baghdad, fueling their economy. Viking homes were simple, often dug into the ground, thatched with turf, one room warmed by a central fire. The woman of the house oversaw domestic affairs, managing slaves and supplies, while the men chased wealth. Yet Viking women had rights far beyond those of most medieval Europeans. Some even fought alongside men. A woman could divorce her husband and, if unmarried at 20, choose where she lived. Female shamans often led religious rites, sometimes chosen for traits like being born blind. When a chieftain died, he was burned with his ship. Occasionally, Selected thralls were slain and cremated alongside him to guide him in the afterlife. And yes, they really did bathe in blood. But they also prized cleanliness, believing running water sacred. Still, poor food hygiene meant intestinal parasites were rampant. A Viking's stomach was rarely at peace. Why did they leave Scandinavia? Historians point to population pressure, dwindling resources, and a shortage of women, since Viking men could have many concubines, while women did not enjoy that freedom. Shipbuilders worked tirelessly. The next target, Constantinople, today's Istanbul. Their dragon-headed longships could reach 20 knots, but offered no shelter in storms, no bathrooms except over the side, and no compasses. Instead, they used Iceland's spar, a crystal that split light, to find the sun's position even on cloudy days, one of the era's most brilliant navigational tools. In 860, a fleet of 200 Viking ships arrived at Constantinople's gates. The Byzantines hadn't even heard of these Norse invaders. What followed was horror. The city burned. Citizens nailed to ships or hacked with axes. Thousands drowned. Vikings hung severed heads on their prows to terrorize foes, and it worked. Preoccupied with wars against the Arabs, Byzantium could only watch. Weeks later, laden with plunder, the Vikings returned north, leaving behind nothing but blood and anguish. The Byzantines called these newcomers Rus, meaning those who row, the root of the name Russia. In time, however, treaties transformed adversaries into trading partners. Vikings used city baths, bought bread, wine, fish, and meat, and even formed an elite Varangian guard to protect the emperor. Today, you can still see Halfdan carved into a stone in Hagia Sophia's upper gallery. Some stayed on as merchants, others set sail west. Explorer Floki released 3 ravens. One flew to known land, one returned to the ship, and the third never came back. Following that raven led him to Iceland, a frozen land he named accordingly. Later, Eric the Red colonized Greenland, and his son Leif Erikson reached North America, 500 years before Columbus. Remains of that settlement still stand in Newfoundland, mysteriously abandoned. By the 800s, Vikings formed armies of 4,000 to 5,000, striking Paris, England, Spain, and Eastern Europe. In 845, a force led by the legendary Ragnar used sledges to drag ships over land, crossed the Seine, and sacked Paris, only departing after a huge ransom. Was Ragnar Lothbrok a real man? Scholars say no single Ragnar existed. His legend blends multiple 9th century leaders. His supposed sons, like Ivar, Ube, and Sigurd, were real figures, but no contemporary records link them to a Ragnar. The name Ragnar Lothbrok first appears in Icelandic texts around 1120, 3 centuries later. The Viking Age ended in 1066, when King Harald Hardrada fell to William the Conqueror, who himself was of Viking descent. But the Norse didn't vanish. By 999, so-called Norman Vikings founded kingdoms in Italy and beyond, earning papal favor. As Christianity spread and castles rose, Vikings assimilated into European society. Former rulers saw themselves as English, French, Spanish, or Italian. Yet their warrior spirit endured in crusader leaders of Viking heritage. In the end, the Viking saga didn't conclude with swords. It ended through assimilation. They weren't defeated by others. They became part of the world they once raided. All that remains is their story, a tale worth remembering, from people worth celebrating, a people worth telling.